in the FedEx Cup standings ahead of Scotty Scheffler. Scheffler had been in the #1 spot for 23 straight weeks. Here's a look at the FedEx leaderboard, and Zalatoris in a 3-hole playoff over Sepp Straka. And what a crazy finish to this one we all witnessed. And we welcome in CBS Sports senior golf reporter Kyle Porter. Kyle, Zalatoris, his first win on tour after so many runner-up finishes. He moves atop the FedEx Cup standings. I mean, we saw the highlights, Kyle. What is your reaction to how the end of this tournament unfolded?
Well, I was thinking about this as Zalatoris was trying to get the win. He had all these kind of big talents out of the way. Rory was not in it. Scotty Scheffler was not in it. Justin Thomas was out of the mix. And now he's got to deal with Sepp Straka, who's missed 6 cuts in a row, has barely shot around in the 60s since May, just hitting lasers all day and making every putt he looks at. And I think it's just... for me, it's a reaction to just how difficult winning a golf tournament is. You'll see Zalatoris here on the 3rd playoff hole here. Almost hits the ball in the water. It bounces like 6 times on the rocks, somehow settles between the rocks and the grass. He thinks about hitting it here. Again, this is the 3rd playoff hole after he's already hit like a 14-footer to get into a playoff, another like 15-footer on the 2nd hole of the playoff for par. To just make it to this 3rd playoff hole. He eventually picks it up, takes it back to the drop zone, and ends up winning the hole with a 4, with a bogey on that par 3. So it was a roller coaster to me for the last hour. You know, this tournament was pretty, straightforward and not, super exciting, honestly, for the first 71 holes. And then the last hour might have been the craziest, most fun hour of the entire golf year. So it really flipped in that as we went to the playoff, kind of in a moment there. And it was great to see with Zalatoris, who's been so close all year, get the first win of his PGA Tour career.
Yeah, no doubt. You couldn't look away for the last hour of that. From the 18th hole through all 3 playoff holes, it was just absolute insanity. Zalatoris winning his first FedEx Cup playoff appearance. What stood out to you most about his performance in the entire week? And, I mean, can we talk about, again, his putting down the stretch was so clutch.
His putting on stretch was really good. There were a couple of things that stood out. He was, I think he ended #1 in this field. Last time I checked at the end of his round, he was #1 in this field from tee to green. He's so good from tee to green. What was interesting is that he didn't hit the ball very well off the tee coming home. He didn't hit very many fairways over his last, I guess he played, the back 9 and then the 3 playoff holes. He was kind of wild with his driver. And then the other thing that stood out was he shot 71 on Thursday. He was not very good. I mean, that was well above field average on Thursday, and just was unbelievable over the last 3 days. To shoot 63 on Friday, 65 on Saturday, and then obviously get the win on Sunday. He basically won the tournament in 3 days rather than the 4 that everybody else took. So kind of those 3 things. The clutch putting you mentioned. Will Zalatoris, according to his numbers, is an above average putter. He gets a lot of run because he's missed some shorties. It's easy to make fun of some of the shorter strokes where he misses a 3-footer or a 4-footer, and it looks really bad. But I think what you saw in the playoff there is that not only does he hit clutch putts, he also is a good lag putter. And both of those things are paramount to winning a lot on the PGA Tour, which I think Will Zalatoris is going to do over the course of his career.
His lag putting showed off here in that playoff as well. We can't forget about Sepp Straka. We shouldn't, at least. He missed 6 straight cuts coming into this event, as you mentioned. Fell just short of the playoff here. What did you like most about his performance at the St. Jude?
Well, I thought his performance, what was kind of emblematic of it was he hit some shots, he hit some approach shots in the playoff and kind of at the end of regulation there that just wowed you. I mean, it was weird because you expect a guy who's missed 6 straight cuts, who only has 2 rounds in the 60s since the beginning of May, who just has not, really been like a top 5 or 10 player in the world. You don't expect a guy like that to kind of have the moxie that he had down the stretch. He hit a couple of shots that I was like, oh my gosh, like he didn't even look like he was fazed by the entire playoff of being in a playoff in the first round of the FedEx Cup, which would have moved him near the top of the FedEx Cup rankings. It was, a $2+ million purse. He didn't look fazed by any of it, and to hit some of the shots that he hit down the stretch to get into the playoff and even in the playoff to keep himself alive, I was super impressed by that, and it made me wonder if by this time next year we're not talking about Sepp Straka as potentially a player on the European Ryder Cup team for that Ryder Cup in Rome next year.
Couldn't agree more. Even from his very first tee shot in the playoff, hugging that water on 18. After Zalatoris actually had a really nice tee shot of his own, he did him one better. That was just great stuff. Let's take a look at the updated FedEx Cup standings. Kyle, what stands out to you following the first event of the playoffs?
Well, obviously you got Zalatoris at the top. Scotty Scheffler didn't play very well this week, and he only drops one spot. I think that just goes to show how big Scotty Scheffler's lead was coming into these playoffs, and he's still in a really good position. I think Finau stands out to me. He moved up a couple of spots after finishing tied for 6th at this event. Straka obviously jumps Rory and JT there. So it's going to be interesting, next week at the BMW Championship, because you're really kind of setting the stage for the Tour Championship. And again, that number one guy going into the Tour Championship starts at 10 under. That's a big deal when you've got somebody like a Zalatoris or a Finau or somebody that's playing really good golf to start at 10 under. That's a difficult player to catch if they continue to play good golf. So I think those are kind of the main things that I'm looking at when I kind of evaluate what the FedEx Cup standings look like after the first playoff event.
As you mentioned, the playoff heads east now to Wilmington Country Club in Wilmington, Delaware. What are you going to be watching in that event, and what type of golfer do you think best suits the course there?
Well, I think the course is interesting because we haven't the PGA Tour hasn't gone there. So I think it's going to be intriguing to see, we did this last year with the BMW Championship. You go to Caves Valley and you're like, I don't really know. Like, you haven't seen the course. Guys haven't really played the course. So in terms of what kind of golfer, I think that remains to be seen. But I think what I'll be watching for here is you've got guys like Rory missing the cut at Memphis, at TPC Southwind. Can he bounce back? Jordan Spieth played really bad. Can he bounce back? You had a lot of these kind of bigger names. Scotty Scheffler didn't play well. You had a lot of these bigger names miss the cut or not play well at TPC Southwind in the first playoff event. Can those guys bounce back and kind of reestablish their stronghold on the top of these FedEx Cup standings going into the Tour Championship, going into Eastlake? I think there's a number of different storylines. Zalatoris is at the top of the list. Finau being up there is at the top of the list. But for me, the kind of broad storyline is, do these stars that didn't play well in the first playoff event, did they knock some of the rust off where they maybe hadn't played since the Open Championship? And will they bounce back over the last two events to finish out this season strong? Yeah,
we're 1/3 of the way through the playoff. We cut down from 125 to 70 for the BMW next week, and then the top 30 make the Tour Championship. Right now, after the first playoff tournament, who's your pick to win it all?
Well, I've got Tony Finau. He's ranked 5th in the FedEx Cup standings now. He came in ranked 7th, had a great week this week. I think sometimes we've seen Finau finish in the top 10, come close to winning and not win and be a little disappointed by it. But listen, he was trying to become the sixth guy the last 25 years to win 3 starts in a row in the PGA Tour. He didn't do it. He came up a little bit short, obviously, of that playoff between Zalatoris and Straka. But I just think he's in a great position. He is in a great position to be in that top 3, 4, 5 range at the Tour Championship, which is really where you want to be to have a legitimate great shot to win the $18 million first prize at the end of the Tour Championship. So combination for me of him being up pretty high in the standings with how good a golf he's been playing, number 3 in the world in terms of strokes gained tee to green, behind Rory and Scotty Scheffler since May 1st. So it's been sustained excellence, statistical excellence from Tony Finau for 3 or 4 months now. That to me, the combination there makes me think he's going to go on and win the FedEx Cup.
All right, Kyle, so much fun talking golf with you always, especially after an absolutely incredible 3-hole playoff at the St. Jude. Thanks so much. And for more awesome golf content, join Kyle Porter and the rest of the crew on the First Cut podcast. You'll get tournament previews, including DFS picks and analysis. You'll also get round-by-round reaction to each PGA Tour event. It's the First Cut podcast. Download and subscribe today.
Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.